Hello everyone and welcome to this video. So in this video, I'm going to show you a new resource that we have created and we have given it the name as Can I Take Over All XYZ? Now, before this video, you must have seen about Can I Take Over XYZ, which was the ed overflow repository, which contained all the fingerprints for subdomain takeover based vulnerabilities. Now, we identified that particular repository was not updated since 2 years and there were several inconsistencies into those fingerprints into that repository. So we tried to fix it and we have added more awesome fingerprints into this repository to make your subdomain takeover based hunting more comprehensive and more awesome. So what is Can I Take Over All XYZ? So it is a list of fingerprints which are actually updated for your subdomain takeovers. And we have classified this into two fingerprints basically, which is an old fingerprint and a new fingerprint. So it contains 75 fingerprints, as I already said. And the points you should know is, first of all, there are 75 list of cloud-based services that we have added, which is up to date. Based on that, we are going to do identification of dangling CNAME records, and we are going to use those list of fingerprints and identify the status of takeovers of any of the domain or subdomain. So it is the practical time, and let's see how can we utilize this new repository. You can find this Can I Take Over All XYZ on my GitHub repo on Shifa123 by the name of All Subdomain Takeovers. Alright, now when we come over here, if you scroll down, then you can see all entries over here, and these are all the entries that we have created, and they are around more than 75 new entries with the updated cloud service providers. And if you go back to here, and you can see these are some of the old entries which are updated in Can I Take Over XYZ, and as we have already discussed about it. Now, just to show you the proof of concept about the inconsistency that were present in Can I Take Over XYZ, you can come over here and just search for Heroku, and you can see into Heroku for the old Can I Take Over XYZ, I have added an old fingerprint, if you can see over here, and a new fingerprint over here. Alright, so let's see the old fingerprint for Heroku, and the old fingerprint was no such app. And we have added a new fingerprint which says there's nothing here yet. And let me show you over here, and you can see this is a Heroku subdomain or a Heroku domain that we have identified from census, which I've already shown you. And here you can see there's nothing here yet is the message that we are getting into the response. So through this way, we are also getting those targets which should not be missed and are vulnerable to Heroku based subdomain takeovers. Let me show you one more example to make it more clear and more understandable. So you can see Shopify, and the old case for Shopify was, if I search Shopify over here, you can see edge case, which means sometimes it is vulnerable, sometimes it is not vulnerable, and sometimes only the security researchers are able to take over the Shopify subdomains. And you can see the fingerprint is sorry, this shop is currently unavailable. We have modified the fingerprint, and the new fingerprint which has been added is only one step left. And let me show you the targets which are vulnerable to Shopify subdomain takeover, and we have written over here as vulnerable instead of edge case. So let me show you over here a live target which is vulnerable to Shopify takeover. Let's wait for this to complete, and you can see we have got some quick targets. So let me go on any of the target on port 80 just to load the web application, and let's see if we are able to identify one of the Shopify subdomain takeover. And you can see over here it's dudedispensary.com. Alright, so we have a target which is vulnerable to Shopify takeover, and the new fingerprint that we have added is only one step left. Similarly, we have more targets that you can identify from census, which will be vulnerable to Shopify subdomain takeovers. So like this, we identified what were the previous issues into the repository, and we have tried to fix it with multiple new fingerprints, as well as we have added new targets as well, which are evolved recently and are not added to the old repository. So I hope you find this very, very useful for taking over subdomain takeover based vulnerabilities. And yes, we are going to constantly update this with more and more fingerprints of new and new cloud service platforms that we identify. And in case we see if any of the target subdomains or the target cloud service providers are not vulnerable, we will update the status over here. Also, we will be updating the new fingerprints in case we identify any new fingerprint while doing our research. So I hope this turns out to be very, very helpful for every one of you in identifying of subdomain takeover based vulnerabilities. One last thing, you can also contribute over here if you identify that any of the new fingerprint while doing your research or you are doing subdomain takeovers, you can just submit a new entry over here. Or if you find a new cloud service provider that evolves and is vulnerable to subdomain takeovers based on your research, you can add it over here. You can just add the title and leave the comment and submit an issue. We will verify that at our end, and if it is valid, we will add it to the new list of can I take over all XYZ. So I hope you guys understood. Thank you.